Speaking of fucking poor people over, let's talk about student loans. Chucky Schumer wrote an op-ed in the USA Today. We're going to read from it. Apparently with Natalia Abrams. I don't know who that is. Biden should extend student loan payment pause and cancel $50,000 for borrowers. He should just cancel student debt, period. But hey, I appreciate the sentiment, Chucky Schumer. Wilson Montoya immigrated to New York from Columbia and went to college to become these kinds of fluff pieces, which once again, this is an opinion piece by Chucky. He wrote this. I was about to say, these kinds of pieces in news articles are like, you know, those recipes where you gotta read through these personal stories to get to the actual how to make the fucking shit that you looked up. Wilson Montoya immigrated to New York from Columbia and went to college to become a social worker, helping vulnerable people in his community. But like many others, in order to make that dream possible, Wilson was left with $70,000 in student debt that kept getting higher as he tried to pay it off. You know, I haven't looked at mine. I haven't even tried to pay it off. But I ain't paying that shit. Fuck you guys. You're gonna forgive it. I ain't paying it. I'll leave the country to avoid it. Fuck you. I ain't paying it. He is far from alone. For many Americans with student debt, the COVID-19 crisis turned their financial difficulties into catastrophes. Even before the pandemic, 43 million Americans owed nearly $1.7 trillion. Now, they didn't used to keep a record of student loan debt back in the 70s because it was insignificant. Now it is $1.7 trillion. But once the economy collapsed during COVID-19 and tens of millions of Americans lost their jobs and incomes, it became nearly impossible. Luckily, people like Wilson were given a lifeline when the Department of Education paused most federal student loan payments, and again when President Joe Biden extended the pause through this September. Not the only thing that's expiring in September. Over the course of the crisis, the pause on student loan payments has become one of the most effective steps the government has taken to help the American people. It provided approximately $72 billion in relief for borrowers and their families. A recent study conducted by the Student Debt Crisis found that 75% of student loan borrowers feel that the pause on payments has been critical to their financial well-being. The policy has been a clear success, but it's set to end on September 30th. Should payments resume on October 1st, millions of students, borrowers, and parents will be abruptly pushed back into repayment at the same time. Even those who are living paycheck to paycheck or without paychecks at all. This could stall our economic recovery and bring millions of student loan borrowers to the edge of a financial cliff. As I said, not the only thing set to expire in September. 41 days, 20 million Americans will lose unemployment insurance benefits. American Rescue Plan Act temporarily increased the duration, coverage, and generosity of unemployment insurance benefits until September 6th of this year. Between June 12th and July 10th, all 25 GOP-led states prematurely eliminated these benefit increases for their residents, and the Biden administration declined to use its statutory authority to prevent these cuts. I don't know that he did have the statutory authority. Now, Bernie Sanders tried to get the Department of Treasury to circumvent the states and still pay the people on the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, their plus-up benefits. Unfortunately, that didn't go anywhere. Early data from the Census Household Pulse Survey shows that these cuts have been effective at removing people from the unemployment rolls, but not successful at increasing employment. If this data is accurate, then it suggests that when these same cuts hit the more populous other half of the states on September 6th, they will do enormous damage to tens of millions of Americans, and it will. And this is all happening right as COVID cases are skyrocketing. And if you look at the number of cases, the graph goes straight the fuck up. And if it's going straight the fuck up now, that means 2 to 3 weeks from now, it's going to be even worse. But now, there might be something happening this weekend that might very well exacerbate that. While unemployment benefits and the student loan pause end in September, this weekend, the federal eviction moratorium expires.
Some of your neighbors may be at risk of losing the place they call home. The federal eviction moratorium protecting families from evictions during the coronavirus pandemic is expiring this Saturday. WNBF News reporter Jennifer Roberts has been talking with homeless shelters across the Grand Strand and the PD. She's live now. And Jennifer, are they expecting more people to reach out to them?
Well, Meredith, the CEO here at New Directions of Horry County tells me it's too soon to know how many families will be seeking their shelter services after the eviction moratorium ends. She also says it's best for families to reach out now. That's because the supply of beds may not meet the demand.
Unfortunately,
oh God,
we are full. We have waiting lists.
New Directions of Horry County says its shelter is staffed for 100% capacity on a regular basis. That means anyone who needs a bed in the shelter after the eviction moratorium ends will likely be on the waiting list.
It is heartbreaking for us to have to tell somebody that we don't have a bed available. So again, we don't know what to anticipate when this happens this weekend, but we will talk with anyone. We will help them connect with other resources that might be available.
I do expect that going into the fourth quarter that we're going to see big increases in the homeless population.
The House of Hope of the PD says it already has a plan in place at their shelter locations to help families.
A building on our property that serves as a local church, the Whosoever Church, that we can pull out additional cots. We will pull out cots and some of the living spaces in our shelter. So we do have overflow plans in case something like that happens.
Over in Lawns, North Strand Housing Shelter says it's almost full.
Wish I could tell you that we could make some plans where we could have additional space, but we don't. We stay close to full all the time. We usually have a backlist. A wait list. Go ahead and place the application. That's the best thing. That's the most proactive thing they can do with us.
And if you are in need of help, all of the shelters I spoke with are encouraging you to reach out sooner rather than later. Again, the eviction moratorium is expected to end on July 31st. Reporting from Myrtle Beach, I'm Jennifer Roberts.
She says expected. God damn, I hope they extend it. I mean, I do not want to see what happens if they don't, because it's not like we have data about what happens. Research suggests ending eviction moratoriums led to spike in COVID cases and deaths. A UCLA study found coronavirus spread steadily after states' eviction bans expired. Research by a UCLA-led team has determined that the number of COVID-19 cases and the number of deaths from the disease both increased dramatically after states lifted eviction moratoriums that had been in place to protect people who were struggling to make rent payments during the pandemic. The study found that the number of COVID-19 cases doubled, and the number of deaths attributed to the disease increased 5-fold in the 4-month period after eviction moratoriums expired. Researchers analyzed data from Washington, D.C. and the 43 states that implemented eviction moratoriums, 27 of which expired before September, and 17 of which extended at least until September. 7 states never implemented an eviction moratorium. The analysis compared the states that allowed their moratorium to expire to the states that kept them in place. The researchers also accounted for the effects of other public health measures, including COVID-19 testing, school closures, mask mandates, and stay-at-home requirements. The study is published in the American Journal of Epidemiology. So, eviction moratorium expires this weekend. could double COVID cases. Unemployment has ended in like 27 states. They've had to reinstate it in 3 thus far, I believe. Other states are suing. It could come back. And people are going to get the opportunity. States that do opt back in, everybody does get the chance to get the money that they missed from whenever the state cut it off. Not every state has a lawsuit currently. Student loans resume in September. It's a freight train coming right at us. And it's completely fucking preventable. I'm not optimistic about what this fall is going to look like. Even if we don't get crushed by COVID, we're in for a financial crash. The writing is on the wall.